So right now we have a game where we have a basic character image and we have a sprite for our character to land on. But that's pretty much it. Kind of boring. So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to go to my base asset folder, scripts, right click, create mono behavior script. Now this used to say create C# script in previous versions of Unity, but as of Unity 6, it says mono behavior script. I'll click on that and I'm going to call it player controller. So before we actually open this up, we need to make sure our settings are set up to open to Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go to Edit, Preferences, External Tools, and make sure your external script editor is set to Visual Studio Code. Once that's done, go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. Open up your script. All right, so with Visual Studio Code opened up to our player controller script, let's go ahead and set this up to actually move. So the way that it works with Unity, when you want to move an object, you can do it in a couple different ways. Our player character is set up with a rigid body. That's what we want to actually move. So we need to create a reference to that rigid body. So at the top, let's go ahead and create a private rigid body 2D. I'll call it RB. So we have a reference to a rigid body, so that means we can edit it. So we need to first actually get access to it. So inside of our start menu, start function, I'll do RB is equal to get component rigid body 2D semicolon. So this will grab a reference to the rigid body that is on the player controller, that is on the object the player controller is attached to, and we can then make changes to it. So now that we have a reference to the rigid body, we then just need to modify it. So I'll do rigid body RB dot linear velocity equals new vector 2, and I'll set this to just 1, 0, and save it. Go back into Unity and I will press play. The character should just kind of move to the right. So it helps if I attach the script. So player controller, add component, and then I will add the script player controller. And now press play. So now the character just kind of moves to the right. Then flips off into space. So not great, but that's all right. We will be modifying that to make it work a little bit better. By a little bit, I mean a lot. So now that we have that, let's actually get some input. So we have our start function and our update function. Start is called right at the beginning of the game. Update is called every frame, once per frame. We actually want to create a new function called fixed update. So I'll do void fixed update. So with the fixed update function created, I'm gonna go ahead and take this RB linear velocity. I'm gonna cut that and actually put it inside a fixed update. Because this is a physics-based operation, we want it to actually happen at the end of the frame. So fixed update happens at the end of a frame call. But inside of our update, we want to actually get some input. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new variable. It'll be a private float horizontal move. I'll set this equal to 0. And instead of update, I want to do horizontal move is equal to input dot get axis horizontal. And then instead of fixed update where we move this linear velocity equals new vector 2, I'm going to put horizontal move inside of here. So this will make it so when we get input from the player, it stores it in an update, and then we use that in order to put speed or add velocity to our character in whatever direction. When we get axis, it's either going to be a positive or negative value. If it's to the right, it's positive. If it's to the left, it's negative. So based on that direction, that will determine what direction we move.
All right, so just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, here I have a website called hardwaretester.com gamepad, and I have a Xbox controller that is hooked up to this program. So if I move the left analog stick to the right, you can see that the axis 0 is 1. Move to the left, it is negative 1. Go up, negative 1. Axis 1, so the y-axis. And positive 1 pointing down. Now, Unity will actually invert these, but I just want you to kind of see what I'm talking about. If I'm using a D-pad, you can see that if I go to the right, 1, to the left, 1, but Unity, with its built-in input feature, will actually just convert this to negative.
I'm going to go back into Unity and let's test it out. And I'm falling very, very slowly. But if I move left and right with the arrows, or A and D with the keyboard, my character is now moving to the left or right. So I now have basic input. But that falls a little weird, so we got to fix that. So the issue is that in our script, we are setting the linear velocity to 0, and it falls in a frame, but then goes back to 0, and it just kind of keeps doing that, which isn't really what we want it to do. So instead what I'll do is I will set the, instead of 0, I'll have the new vector 2 be equal to horizontal move, comma, RB dot linear velocity y. This gets the velocity of the player that was already in there and just uses that instead. So that way we can use physics, so where the character can fall and move at different speeds vertically. We only really want to control horizontally at this point. Go ahead and press play and see how this works. So in order to test this out, I'm going to move my player up a little bit further and then press play, and it should fall at normal speed. And it does. Cool. I now have basic falling, basic movement. And the character still moves to the left and right without an issue. Though it's pretty slow. I want to make this faster. To do that, I'm going to go back to the script, and I'm going to create a new variable called private. I'll make this public, actually. Public float movement speed. I'll set this equal to 5.f for now. 5.0f, sorry. And instead of our update, when we are applying the new velocity, when we're getting the input from the user, I'm then going to multiply this times my movement speed. Input.getAxis will only give a value between -1 and 1. And as we're using that as our basis for movement, it means our character can only ever move at a speed of 1. But if we multiply that value times our movement speed, then we're able to increase the speed in which the player moves. Back in Unity, I now have a new setting I can modify in my player controller script. And if I press play then, my player should move faster to left or right. Now it moves a lot faster. So that's going to be it for this video. We made a lot of progress so far, but we still have a lot more to go to get the character moving and acting right. So that's it for this one. Thanks.